Welcome! So today, we're going to explore this really foundational code for human conduct. It kind of redefines what it means to be a good citizen and, a good person. And this isn't just some list of rules. Think of it more as a practical guide for living a balanced, purposeful life.
Okay, so let's just dive right in with a question that the source material really wants us to think about. What if we've been looking at morality all wrong? What if it's not some finish line you cross, but a path you have to walk every single day?
You see, the source defines morality as this constant, active effort. It's not about being perfect, it's about the continuous struggle to maintain your balance against, all those opposite ideas, like temptations and selfish thoughts. It's really an internal battle that ends up defining our external actions.
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at what's called Yama, which are the principles that guide our actions out in the world. Then, we'll turn inward to Niyama, which are the principles for personal discipline. And together, they form this complete moral code we're here to talk about.
First up, Yama. These are the social ethics, right? The principles that guide how we interact with everyone and everything around us. You can almost think of this as the foundation for building a better society.
So the first big one is ahimsa, or non-harm. Pretty straightforward on the surface. Don't cause pain through your thoughts, your words, or your actions. But as we're about to see, how you apply this in real life is way more nuanced than just simple pacifism.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The source makes this critical distinction. It argues that, absolute nonviolence isn't always practical. Defending yourself or defending others from an attacker, that's not seen as a violation of non-harm. It's actually considered an act of courage or valor.
Okay, the second principle is satya. And this one challenges our whole idea of truth. It suggests that truth is about more than just spitting out facts. It's about using your words and actions for the welfare of others. So the big question becomes, is what I'm about to say actually helpful?
And this example just nails the difference perfectly. Just stating a fact, like telling a bad guy where their victim is hiding, that could lead to terrible harm. But practicing true satya means you prioritize welfare, even if that means you have to misguide an aggressor to protect someone.
From there, we move to asteya, which takes our idea of stealing and just blows it wide open. It argues that theft isn't just about taking a physical object. It's about the very intention to take something, physically or mentally, that isn't rightfully yours to begin with.
I mean, just look at how deep this goes. It covers physical theft, sure, but it also covers planning to steal. It even includes depriving others of what they're due, like, say, traveling on a train without a ticket, or even just thinking about how to cheat someone out of what they deserve.
Now get ready for this one, because it's a fascinating reinterpretation. The word Brahmacarya is often translated as celibacy, but the source here defines it as something much, much bigger. It's about seeing the divine, or this cosmic consciousness, in every single thing and every single person.
And the source does not pull any punches here. It calls that common interpretation a bluff, a misinterpretation that's been used historically to create a false sense of spiritual superiority and to exploit ordinary people who lead married lives.
And to round out the social principles, we have aparigraha, or non-indulgence. This is a direct challenge to our modern consumerist world, right? It asks us to really think about the difference between what we need and what we just want, and to avoid indulging in comforts that are, just extra. The goal here is to free ourselves from that mental weight of just accumulating stuff.
Okay, so that's the social side. Now, let's move on to niyama and see how this all builds. We've looked at our external conduct. Now it's time to turn inward, to the principles for personal, internal discipline. This is all about cultivating the self.
The Niyama principles kick off with shauka, or purity. And just like the others, it's not as simple as it sounds. It really has two dimensions, an outer one and a far, far more important inner one. So look, keeping your body and your home clean, that's great. But the source says true purity comes from a clean mind, one that's free from all those negative complexes like selfishness and jealousy. And you get there through selfless service and having a more universal outlook. Next up, we have santosha, or contentment. And this isn't about being lazy or not having any ambition. It's about finding a state of mental ease, Being satisfied with what comes from your honest work, instead of getting caught in that stressful, endless chase for more.
Then there's the principle of tapa,
Now, it's often translated as penance, which sounds intense, but it's really about purposeful hardship. It means intentionally taking on some physical discomfort, not to punish yourself, but as a way to serve others. By taking on a burden, you actually bring relief to someone else. It's service in its most active, selfless form. And that idea of selfless service leads us beautifully to Swajaya, which is all about deep, meaningful study. It's a warning against just reading words on a page. It urges us to really understand the spirit and the intention behind what we're learning, especially when it comes to sacred or philosophical texts.
And this is a perfect example of why that's so important. The term mamsasadhana was twisted over time to mean eating meat, which was then used to justify animal sacrifice. But its actual spiritual meaning is control over the tongue, or, mindful speech. It just shows you how easily things can get distorted without that deep study.
And the final principle, Ishvara Pranidhana, is really what all the others are pointing toward. It means accepting this cosmic consciousness as the ultimate ideal, the ultimate shelter in your life, and meditating on that ideal. It becomes the guiding star that orients every other thought and every other action.
So now that we've gone through all 10, when we put them all together, the 5 social and the 5 personal, what does this complete framework for being a good citizen actually look like?
Here they are, side by side. On one hand, you've got Yama, guiding our actions out in the world, and on the other, you have Niyama, guiding our inner state. Together, they create this really comprehensive code for conduct that balances our external life with our internal one.
So the crucial takeaway here is this. The source presents these principles not as some checklist you can just complete and be done with. It's a path you have to consciously walk every single day. Which brings us right back to that first question. Is being a good person a final destination you arrive at, or is it something you find in the constant daily practice of the journey itself?